More than 400 years ago, the land that we now call America was a wild and unknown world. Dense forests covered the land. Massive rivers flowed through untouched valleys. And only Native American tribes lived there, following traditions that were thousands of years old. But across the Atlantic Ocean, powerful European kingdoms were searching for new lands, new resources, and new opportunities. They didn't know it yet. But their journey would change the course of history forever. This is the story of how a group of struggling colonies turned into one of the most powerful nations in the world. The United States of America. In the early 1600s, England began sending ships across the Atlantic Ocean. The journey was long and dangerous. Storms, disease, and hunger often killed many travelers before they even reached land. But in 1607, a small group of English settlers finally established the first successful colony in North America. They called it Jamestown. Life in Jamestown was incredibly difficult. The settlers faced harsh winters, food shortages, and conflicts with the local tribes. Many people died during the first years. But slowly, the colony survived. More ships arrived, more families settled, and over time, more colonies were created along the eastern coast. Eventually, 13 colonies were established under British control. For many years, the colonies grew and prospered. But trouble was coming. In the 1700s, Britain fought several expensive wars in Europe. These wars left the British government with massive debt. To recover the money, Britain decided to place heavy taxes on the American colonies. The colonists were furious. They had no representatives in the British Parliament, yet they were being forced to pay taxes. Their message was simple: no taxation without representation. The anger continued to grow. Protests started appearing in cities across the colonies. And then, something happened that shocked the entire British Empire. In 1773, Britain passed a law that allowed a company to sell tea directly to the colonies with taxes included. The colonists refused to accept it. One cold night in December, a group of protesters disguised themselves as Native Americans. They quietly boarded British ships in the harbor of Boston. Then they opened hundreds of tea crates and threw them into the ocean. The water of Boston Harbor was soon filled with floating tea. This event became known as the Boston Tea Party. Britain was furious. The government decided to punish the colonies. But instead of stopping the rebellion, it only made the colonists more determined. In 1775, the conflict finally turned into war. The American colonies began fighting against the powerful British Army. At first, the colonists seemed hopelessly outmatched. Britain had one of the strongest armies in the world. The colonists had fewer soldiers, fewer weapons, and very little training. But they had something stronger than weapons. They had a powerful belief. The belief that they deserved freedom. A leader soon emerged to guide the colonial army. His name was George Washington. Washington faced enormous challenges. His soldiers often lacked food, warm clothing, and proper equipment. Winters were brutal, but Washington never gave up. And neither did his army. On July 4, 1776, history changed forever. The leaders of the 13 colonies gathered to sign a powerful document. It was called the Declaration of Independence. This document officially declared that the American colonies were no longer under British rule. It stated something revolutionary, that all people are born with certain rights. The right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness. The world had never seen anything quite like it. But declaring independence was only the beginning. The real fight was still ahead. The war continued for several difficult years. Battles were fought across forests, towns, and rivers. The American army struggled, but they kept fighting. Eventually, they gained an important ally. France decided to support the American cause. French ships, soldiers, and weapons gave the colonists new strength. Finally, in 1781, the most important battle of the war took place. The Battle of Yorktown. American and French forces surrounded the British army. There was no escape. The British commander was forced to surrender. The war was finally over. 2 years later, in 1783, Britain officially recognized the independence of the colonies. A brand new country had been born. The United States of America. Soon after, George Washington became the first president. The young nation began building its own government, its own laws, and its own future. No one could have imagined that these small colonies would one day become a global superpower. But that is exactly what happened. The story of America is not just a story about war. It is a story about courage. About people who believed in freedom so strongly that they were willing to risk everything for it. And from that belief, a nation was born, the United States of America.